something I've watched on demand, Borg versus McEnroe. So Janice Metz, this is really her first like breakout film, I guess, if you want to call it that. She did Armadillo a couple of years back, and she also directed a couple episodes of True Detective. But right now, this is sitting at a really astute 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I am very impressed with this movie, but mostly because Shia LaBeouf, I can't really think of a film where he's been this good. I mean, a great performance from him. It stars him, Sphere Gudnason, and Stellan Skarsgård. And it's basically an autobiographical or a biographical sports look at the Borg versus McEnroe tennis matchup from Wimbledon back in the 80s, and kind of at these two people who are so opposite. You know, if you know anything about Borg, he was a very like flat presentation, always within himself, always controlled, and McEnroe was just like a firecracker all the time, like screaming at refs, screaming at fans, huge outbursts on the court, but kind of looking at how their lives are actually kind of similar off the court in ways, like this drive to be great, and where that drive came from, and how it kind of led them to handle their emotions and their feelings in such different ways. You know, I think it's easy to focus on Shia because McEnroe, I think, is the person that most Americans know and relate to. I mean, he still does tennis analysis today. But the Sphere in this is like unbelievable because he has such a harder role, because he has to pretty much give off all this emotion and all this performance that has to be so calculated and controlled, and he really only has like moments as his character, the older Borg, to kind of show like the emotional side underneath it, whereas like a lot of his emotional side is shown from the child actor that plays him, Borg, as a child. So definitely very interesting. And also anything that makes tennis kind of like interesting and fun to watch, I also give shout out to, because I like tennis, but it's not necessarily the most interesting thing for a movie.
Yeah, I think like watching stuff about like Borg and McEnroe or Jimmy Connors or anything from that time, even I didn't see, but Battle of the Sexes about Billie Jean King with Emma Stone, like anything about tennis back then is just more interesting than tennis today.
I know.
You know what's interesting about Borg versus McEnroe? It was also distributed by Neon. But they did an interesting thing. They released it in a small amount of theaters, but it did same day VOD. That's how you got to see it on Amazon Prime, right? So I thought that was an interesting choice because, I mean, this, you know, they debuted this at a Toronto Film Festival last fall. So, like, you know, it was doing a traditional rollout, but for whatever reason, they decided to, you know, I guess not sink too much money into a release. But how does it function as a sports movie? Because it's about sports, but you know how, like, you know, some sports movies are better than others. You have your Raging Bulls and your Creeds, which are more character films. And then you have stuff like, you know, like Hoosiers, which is still good, but definitely, you know, different, not as deep.
Yeah, you know, I think the only time it really relies on the sports element is the actual match between them in the finals at Wimbledon, which is actually really dramatically shot. And of course, they have this like playoff where they're trading points, and neither one can pull away for like I forgot how many, but it was like an absurd amount of points, and that really just like showed basically like was the climax of it, where they pulled together that these two people are so similar and on such an even playing field and are come from such like different but also similar backgrounds. It was just really well done. And also, after seeing that Janice Metz had been a director for True Detective, it made a lot more sense because the way things were shot, just the kind of like the look of the whole thing. I did get True Detective type vibes a lot of the time, but it's also I don't think they use body doubles because it's kind of hard to cover that up when you're showing them actually doing the strokes.
Right.
Which in that sense, I give LaBeouf and Gudnason a ton of credit because to do it and to like replicate the way that these two like very famous tennis players played and do it so closely is really impressive. So definitely something to check out, and it's easy. I mean, if you have Amazon Prime, just rent it. It'll probably be actually on Prime sooner rather than later.
Yeah, probably. So is this your favorite Shia role? I know Shia has kind of been in the news for some of the wrong reasons. Actually, probably his biggest blow up recently was kind of a good thing, where he was arguing with Richard Spencer. But he's had some tough times. But I actually like him as an actor. What did you think of him?
Yeah, no. I mean, Shia is very interesting, but I thought this role was pretty perfect for him because, I mean, I think the thing most people know him for is, or at least recently, is like when he was doing that, like watching the movie and just following his life as like art, like type thing where he was like streaming it live. And it kind of allows him to play both sides, where he can be his quirkiness or his outgoing self, and then also that, like, obviously he's a person who's very thoughtful and introspective in a lot of ways, or at least tries to be. I really love this role. I think my favorite Shia role is probably Holes, but that's also like very nostalgic for me.
Sure.
So, but yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I can't remember a performance that Shia has done that's been better than this. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm eager to see it just because I really love Shia in Fury, the World War II tank movie with Brad Pitt, Shia, Michael Pena, John Bernthal, and Logan Lerman. I thought that movie is great and brutally underrated, and he really brings it because he can just go full method in a role like that. So I'd like to, I think I'm hoping he's, getting back in the swing of things. He does have another movie in post-production right now, so we can hold that hope, because I do think he's a really talented guy. He just had a lot of personal issues.